We're all human. And it's important to know that doctors are people too. Doctors have emotions, they have passions in life and hobbies, and they enjoy participating as active members in the communities where they practice medicine. Doctors have families, friends, and relationships, while the latest in healthcare and the most current treatments for ailments will be topics on this Doctors Are People Too radio TV show. The focus will be in learning more about the interesting aspects in a physician's life and what they do away from the doctor's office or operating room table.
Hello, South Florida, and welcome, South Florida and beyond, and globally on the iHeartRadio app. Welcome to Doctors Are People Too. First, I just want you to let you know a little bit about myself, so you know who's leading you on this discovery voyage into the world of physicians providing health care to you and I, our family members and friends. My name is David DiPino, and I'm a public relations and marketing specialist. I've been writing professionally since 1999. I'm a native South Floridian from the town of Jupiter. I've written articles published in over 50 monthly, weekly, and daily newspapers, and also on their websites. Today I work in PR, as I said, and I write locally for BocaNewspaper.com and DelRayNewspaper.com, two monthlies in the area right here in Boca Raton and Delray Beach. And listeners, if you'd like to have your doctor on Doctors Are People Too, you can email me. It's really easy. It's my name, D, and then DIPINO @gmail.com. And if you'd like to call in, our number is 1-888-565-1470. It's hard to believe because it has happened so quickly, but this is my 10th show. Last week we had a nice conversation with Dr. Jennifer Capizzuti, a family medicine physician with an office just 10 miles south of here in Fort Lauderdale. And then now I want to send a warm welcome from Doctors Are People Too to Dr. Kimberly Casey Cohen, a doctor specializing in surgical oncology and hepatopancreatic surgery. I've definitely practiced that one for the last 2 years. Dr. Cohen, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks, David. Thanks for having me on.
And
you did so great with that title, by the way.
Thank you.
Much
like
improved.
I said, the first time I said it 2 years ago, I butchered it pretty badly. So
no, much improvement.
Could you say it right from the get-go? Or
No, and my parents still can't say it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So.
Well, practice makes perfect. But welcome again. Thanks you for driving all the way from Miami.
Sure, my pleasure.
Really appreciate that. And Dr. Cohen used to be in this area at Good Samaritan Medical Center, but we're going to talk a little bit more about where she is now. So last week was 4th of July. Did you have a good 4th? Were you off? I mean, did you get to enjoy it?
Oh, it was great. It was nice. Yeah, I got to watch the fireworks this year, and I'm from the South, so I got to enjoy the barbecue, and it was nice. Yeah.
Very nice.
And yours was good?
It was excellent. I was off the whole day. We're actually closed, so that's always good. And I saw a lot of fireworks. Actually just got a new truck, so my wife and I drove up and down A1A. We got to see the Lantana fireworks, Boynton Beach, Delray, and Boca.
Oh, that's
Timed
cool.
it perfect.
Which one was the best?
I think probably Delray.
Okay.
Delray's probably the biggest. Yeah. But they were all really good. I mean, very similar. One reason I really wanted to have you on the show tonight is because that I noticed driving around South Florida in this heat. I guess they're calling it a Bermuda high. I've lived here my whole life. This summer seems hotter than normal. I started getting on my ear a little red, like almost like a sunburn over a few days. And I was getting it in the morning and in the evening driving. And I have tinted windows in my Jeep, but the front two windows aren't tinted. So over time, I noticed, man, I'm getting a sunburn from driving to work. And then happenstance, one of my colleagues got melanoma on the driver's side, the left side. He thinks it's from driving to work, and he actually had to have it cut out. And I wanted to ask you if you had ever heard of driver's side melanoma. Is that something that's common, or?
It's sort of an emerging thing, I think. Skincancer.org recently looked into it and did a bunch of research. And it's interesting because when you think about it, car companies are very smart. Believe it or not, the windshield has protection against both types of sun rays, both UVA and UVB. So that's why we're not seeing a rise in, cancers on the forehead or the nose or kind of on the lips. But we are seeing a rise in skin cancer on the left side of people's face, which is right where the driver's side is. And the driver's side windshield, if you will, is only made to protect you against UVB. So you still get all that exposure from UVA rays. And it's also not, especially me, I don't think about, well, I'm just going to go for a quick drive to CVS or the grocery store. I don't need to put on sunscreen. I'm going to be in my car. But we're seeing more and more of it on that left side, especially in professions that require driving a car or a truck as a living. We're seeing it more commonly in men. And it's now up almost like 53%.
I did read a story about that. A truck driver actually who had gotten melanoma. His wife wrote kind of like a testimonial online because I Googled it before I even talked to you about it. I said, hey, is this really true? Is there really a driver's side melanoma? And all this, research came up. I think you mentioned the skincancer.org came up, and then that testimonial. I was on another site reading a testimonial like we do to find out, and I was pretty surprised to hear about that. Speaking of melanoma, I wanted to ask you also, since you specialize. Well, first I should tell the listeners what you specialize in. So actually, I'll ask you, what is surgical oncology, and talk a little bit about that specialty.
Surgical oncology is a pretty broad category, meaning we're surgeons that deal with any type of cancer. Basically, on a day-to-day basis, our job is to take out tumors. Anything, ranging from head and neck to breast cancer to colon cancer, to my specialty, hepatopancreaticobiliary, to melanoma. So basically, a lot of people confuse us with oncologists. What oncologists do is chemotherapy, and the surgical part is we actually take the tumor out.
Oh, wow. Now, speaking of another type of cancer, melanoma, I also read that, and I wanted to ask you, I read that Bob Marley died of melanoma at the age of 36. I was shocked that he was that young. And then I just wanted to ask you a little bit if you had ever studied that. What I found in my little bit of research is, and I'll let you go into, is something about a dark spot under his toenail that I guess could have been taken care of early, and it's called, and I'm going to butcher this, a cancer called acral lentiginous melanoma.
You actually did really good, yeah. Acral lentiginous melanoma. Yeah, and it's very rare, and there are all these conspiracy theories that go along with Bob Marley, but actually it's very sad. Bob Marley died of metastatic melanoma. So that little tiny spot on his toe actually traveled all the way to his brain, which is actually what caused his death, was metastatic melanoma. And this type of melanoma is more common in the African American population. It's not as common in Caucasians, and usually it's hard for us to catch because it occurs under the nail bed or in the soles of the feet, places that are not necessarily sun exposed. And it's a genetic component to it. So it's one of those things, if you're a dermatologist, we're always looking for it. But if you're just the average Joe walking around, it's one of those places you might not even think about, especially if you're dark-skinned. You have that natural protection in your skin anyway. But the nail beds are very common for this particular type of melanoma.
Wow, and so like all cancers, it's very hard to see, and it kind of masks itself in a way.
It does. And it's a very aggressive type of melanoma, probably one of the most aggressive forms. Metastasizes early, very aggressive.
Is that something that if you tackle it early, you can live from it?
It is, yes. If you catch it in the early stages, meaning before it's spread to the lymph nodes, it's just limited to the nail bed, then it is very treatable.
And that kind of went into my next question, what you were saying about the darker skin. Can people of darker skin color really be at risk for skin cancer? I think the way we don't think that, but I think that may be the case.
It is. They're definitely at risk, especially now that the ozone layer is disappearing slowly and the intensity of the sun is becoming more and more. You have to think of sun not as the tan, but it's literally radiation. So we're exposing our skin to radiation, and nobody is immune from radiation burns. You have to think about Chernobyl and all of, if a nuclear reactor, that's all radiation. And the sun is becoming more and more intense, and the radiation that we're exposed to is becoming more and more. So I think we're going to be finding a rise in that particular cancer because of the radiation exposure.
Wow, that goes to my theory of getting the burn on the outside of my ear. That's never happened before. This is I think, fourth vehicle I've owned.
Right.
And all of a sudden it just started happening. It seems like it's getting hotter. It's getting brighter.
Summers are warmer, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely something there.
And believe it or not, just because we live in the warm weather, people in the cold weather are not immune. Actually, in the higher altitude, in the snow, we find a lot of skin cancers there. Because people think, oh, it's cold, you can't get a sunburn. But actually, in the high altitude and the reflection off the snow is a prime setup for radiation exposure and skin cancer.
Now, I thought of this question driving in. Can we get skin cancer or melanoma that anywhere that sun shines onto the body? Or can it actually happen to anywhere where maybe you don't get sun on a daily basis?
You can actually get skin cancer anywhere. Now, the sun does predispose us for and induces mutations into the skin, which is a whole nother big scientific discussion. But yeah, you can get skin cancers on unexposed areas, and those are more of a genetic component.
I see. Now, so if a listener or anybody for that matter sees a spot or something out of the ordinary on their skin, I always, ask, we have the doctor here, what should they do? Like, we all have our family doctor and we have other doctors, but if we notice something out of the ordinary, what is the first step that a person should take?
I would say definitely, you want to do full body checks, of course. And if anything changes, if you have a suspicious mole and it at all concerns you, you should probably see a dermatologist. That would be my first step. If it bothers you, especially kind of the red flaky things, scars that aren't healing, little areas that just seem red and not going away, I think all of that warrants a trip to the dermatologist.
And maybe everyone in Florida should probably have a dermatologist that they, see probably is it at least once a year, right?
It depends. I think that you should start seeing it. Most people have seen a dermatologist starting in their teens if they have issues with acne or skin issues. And then as we move into our 20s and 30s, we worry more about sun exposure. For the females, we worry about aging and wrinkles. So I think whatever period you are in your life, going to a dermatologist is never a bad idea.
That's great news from Dr. Casey Cohen. We're about to take a break in the next minute, but I just want to give listeners a chance to know where you're located. Can you just tell the listeners where your offices are and what hospitals you're on staff at?
Sure. I have 2 locations. I work at Palmetto General up in Hialeah. And I also work at Coral Gables Hospital, and my office in Coral Gables is literally right across the street from Coral Gables Hospital near the Miracle Mile.
And then you also have an office near Palmetto General as well?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so, wow, 2 offices.
2 offices.
That's great to know. And people can find you on the website tfpsdocs.com as well. I have Dr. Cohen's number here in Miami. It's 305-443-5585. So that's, like she said, the Coral Gables area near the University of Miami, I believe. I don't get down there too much, but that is
fairly
that area.
Close, yeah.
And then also in Hialeah at 305-820-6657. We have Dr. Cohen here for about 15 more minutes. If you have a question, you can call in 1-888-565-1470. And we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back on the other side of Doctors Are People Too.